sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your
Good morning. You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz, KSQD 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. I am Catherine Bell, and this is the Dream Journal, a weekly show where we explore the healing powers of your nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with you. In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Why are so many people so not interested in their dreams? I'll be talking with David Lowe, PhD, about this, as well as about how dreams help us access higher levels of reality and spiritual growth. So what first got you interested in your dreams? Think about that and give us a call later to share your story. As you know, the Dream Journal is all about increasing interest in people's dreams and starting a conversation. So let's talk about how to get people more interested. I am Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. I'd like to remind you that the views and opinions expressed in this program do not necessarily represent those of Natural Bridges Media or of KSQD's staff, volunteers, or underwriters. The Dream Journal is also a podcast, which is great in case you miss part of the show or if you'd like to binge listen to get your dream on. Look for the podcast on all your fine purveyors of podcasts. And as a request, I'd like to have you review it, subscribe, and maybe just tell a friend. It really does help people find the show. So what am I working with now? I had a dream a few days ago in which I was the mother of this little blind girl. She was like 4 or 5 years old, and she was running around in our house, which is not a Waking Life house, but a house that's actually familiar to me from my dreams. And in this incarnation of the house, it's this huge carpeted area, kind of indoors. And I, as a mother in the dream, I'm kind of concerned about her. Will she be safe? Because she's blind, after all. But as I feel back into the dream and think about, so what part of me is that blind girl? And I just feel like this sense of freedom of running around, and it's carpeted. I have my hands out. I just feel really safe because it's a place I know really well. And so it makes me think that there's some part of me that's feeling pretty safe these days. And like I can run around without having to be distracted by my outside views. So I have this sense that I am that 4 or 5 year old girl running around in this carpeted area. I can feel my hair kind of streaming out behind me, and it's this wonderful feeling of safety and freedom, really. So like every week, I will be inviting call-ins during the last 20 minutes of the show, so you can get your questions ready and queue up your phone to 831-900-5773. That's 900 KSQD. I'd love to hear about one of your dreams, or you could ask a question. So we'll be taking live call-ins in a little over half an hour from now. I'd like to welcome David Lowe on the air. Hello.
Catherine, it's wonderful to be with you.
Great. Thank you, David. So David Lowe, MS, PhD, is a former Adjunct Professor of Religion, and he is the author of a textbook called Universal Spiritual Philosophy and Practice. He has also been a substance abuse counselor, a technical writer, and way back when he got out of school, even a circus entertainer, a juggler. Today, David has a counseling practice in Philadelphia where he specializes in mindful recovering, customized meditation, but most of all, dream work. He'll be sharing some of his experiences and talking about the regrettable lack of interest most people have regarding their dreams, but how that interest is now being forced upon us by world events. So, David, hi.
Hey, Catherine, it's great to be with you again. Wow, Here we are.
Yeah. Well, before we go into some of the things about other people's dreams, I'd like to hear maybe a little bit about yourself and your interest in your own dreams. How did you first get started? We talk about people being interested in dreams, and what was your beginning with that?
Well, it's like I really didn't have a choice. I mean, for some people, they just have always dreamed, and they can't really think of any one event that got them going. After I got this initiation from a guru, and that doesn't have to happen to everyone by all means, but in my case, I began having very, very vivid dreams. A lot of things weren't working in my life, and so I found that I was forced to pay attention to them, write them down, try to understand them, and take their advice, essentially. So for me, there was really no choice. I had to look at those dreams and understand them as best I could.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean you had no choice?
Well, a lot of things weren't working in my life at the time. I was very much into a certain kind of spiritual path with a living teacher and everything, and I found that I really had to. Most of the advice I was getting, the direction I was getting in terms of how to be, how to act, what things to take an interest in, were coming to me through dreams. So I really had to take an interest in them, whether I wanted to or not, because things from the outside weren't working. This was years ago. I wasn't willing to listen to anyone on the outside, so I paid attention to my dreams.
Yeah, okay. So, like,
Yeah.
you just didn't have a choice. It was kind of, they were just so strong, the dreams were just so intense for you?
Yes, they were so intense, and I wasn't willing to listen to other people. I was going through a lot of experiences which people couldn't explain to me.
Uh-huh.
So, of a mystical nature in a certain kind of spiritual group and so forth. And I found that dreams were the things that came and advised me as to what to do, how to understand,
Mm-hmm.
and how to be with this new level of knowledge that I was experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, I found that my dreams, too, when they started were pretty relentless. But, as a child, I had several dreams that were just unforgettable, things that I just couldn't ignore. And nobody around me was really talking about dreams. But for me, it was something that I found really compelling, that there was just something there that had a lot of truth for me.
Dreams helped me understand what was going on in a way that nothing on the outside could. So I was forced to take an interest in them big time.
Okay. Right. And so you've been working with your dreams for a long time now then. Well, you mentioned something about a initiation. And
Yes, yes.
That was something that really got you started with your dreams. How long ago was that?
Right. That was in 1983. And I think a lot of people don't need to have guru initiations. Some people just have major events coming along, like a divorce or a job loss or something like that.
Right.
For me, it was that initiation with that guru, which really did the trick.
Right.
It kind of blasted me wide open.
Right. So since '83, so you're that's almost 40 years coming on.
Yeah. You got it. So, yeah, all kinds of dreams involving advice and understandings about things which I needed to get.
Right.
And it's only in more recent, maybe in the last 10 years, that the variety of dreams that I've had have been more along the normal lines of the way people usually have dreams. So I've become a mature dream worker in terms of understanding more about normal everyday life than being on a path with a guru. Mm. So that's been recent. That's been good.
Okay, so it's interesting. Before that time, you said you really were not that interested in your own dreams. So what do you think about that? Why so many people in the world just are not interested in their own dreams? I mean, it's kind of an old joke that the quickest way to put someone to sleep or to end a conversation is to start to tell them your dreams.
Right. I think there are roughly three things. The empirical or scientific paradigm, which rules most of our culture, pretty much excludes really subtle phenomena from dreams, from contributing to our knowledge. science does embrace dreams on more subtle levels, of course, but the normal empirical sense of it pretty much excludes anything like that. So people tend to pshaw dreams and things like that. Another thing would be the idea of dreaming in general, which refers more to thinking about and picturing things that we want, right? And so if we're dreaming about something, we're not being present, which is bad, which is stupid, which is dumb, which is immature. So nighttime dreams must be even worse. If daytime dreams are too childless, and nighttime dreams must be really nutty. So folks who pay attention to those must be especially suspect, right?
Oh, maybe.
The third reason, I think, relates to the way that academics and psychologists traditionally learn about dreams, which is through Freud, the standard Freudian psychoanalysis, and Jungian analytical psychology. Jung is better, of course. He is much more profound and open-minded, of course, but still ensconced in this academic tradition of analytical psychology. We know, of course, that dreams are much easier to relate to than that. But those three things: science in the world, the tendency to think of dreams as nonsense to begin with, and then Freud and Jung being too academic and traditional would be the obstacles to understanding dreams, to really appreciating dreams.
Right. Well, I wonder if there's also like a biological aspect that most of the dreams that we all have are forgotten, and maybe there's some way that they kind of work behind the scenes. And so, I've often said that I don't think we need to understand our dreams to have a happy and fulfilled life, but there is a way that understanding dreams can help that. But there are, the dreams are doing their work behind the scenes, and so perhaps there's not a lot of biological urge to really pay attention to the subconscious process. The same way breathing proceeds quite happily in the background, even though we can take a breathing practice and enhance our health and well-being that way. But breathing is something that most of the time, even dedicated meditators don't pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember something from the Seth books I'll never forget. Part of us does understand the dream. I mean, to the extent that a dream has an intellectual message, a deeper part of our personality picks up on it anyway. We do have to study and contemplate them for that to happen. But the intellectual dimension of a dream is understood on some level. I think.
Yeah. Why'd you say some more about that? What do you mean that is understood? Because a lot of times dreams just seem incomprehensible. So say more about that, please.
Yeah. Well, I think there are two aspects to dreams in terms of their benefit: the intellectual dimension and the feeling image dimension, right? The feeling image dimension is more powerful and transformative, but it can be more difficult to get at.
Right.
The intellectual dimension can lead you to, if you fathom the intellectual dimension, it can bring you to a point in your life where the intuitive emotional dimension can be addressed. It takes you closer to a point where you can wrestle with the issue, right? Instead of wrestling with the issue directly in the dream by contemplating the image, which is difficult and takes patience. The intellectual aspect is often more readily accessible.
Right.
And that leads you to a point in your life where you can finally make that breakthrough, maybe more on your own.
Right. Well, certainly the intellectual aspect activates our prefrontal cortex, which is where we do all of our decision making, and it's like our conscious thinking. And so bringing the information from the dream to that part of our working mind is certainly very useful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing how I've been on the receiving end of 4 different kinds of dream work.
Oh, interesting.
Two of them primarily feeling image related, and 2 of them primarily message intellectually related.
Huh.
And they both have their benefits. The feeling image dimension is deeper and more powerful, but often more difficult to get at.
Yeah.
In my experience, the intellectual dimension is often more accessible,
Right.
and can produce a certain level of feeling focus, because you're beginning to get on. You're beginning to get onto the message. You haven't really gotten onto the message, which is beyond interpretation, but you're getting towards it. That's been my experience about doing dream work with folks.
Right. Well, they both can be satisfying. And, when I've gone to the IASD conferences, I've discovered that there, of the 300 people that were there, like in the last few years, sadly this year's conference had to be canceled, but, you meet there's 300 people, and they each have their own way of approaching dream work. And so that there's many ways that are satisfying of working with dreams. All the way from this highly numerical method. I did a workshop with this fellow. He had this way of numbering everything, and I don't even remember averaging the numbers, adding them. There was like something very numerical, and it was interesting. It was helpful. And all the way, I would say I'm probably on the opposite extreme of going toward the feeling side, and that's where my real focus is in the feeling image side. But there's all levels of value, and any interest in dreams is welcome. And maybe that would be helpful in getting people more interested in dreams, is letting them know that you don't have to settle for the first thing that you hear about. There's many ways of working with dreams, that if this is too touchy-feely for you or something, that there's more intellectual ways of working with them. And there's also, you can do embodied ways of working with them through movement or through your voice or creativity.
Yeah, it's really amazing, the variety of ways that people can work with their dreams. But overall, I think the quality of patience and of just being aware that, we all have this faculty, right? They have neurological, biological benefits. They have cognitive benefits. They have traditional psychodynamic benefits in traditional analytical psychology. But beyond that, there are spiritual dimensions to dreams.
Absolutely.
Which are transformative to levels beyond which most of us can really comprehend or even think exists. Enlightenment is out there.
Well, that's a perfect segue, David, and I want to take that to our break, and let's go back into the spirituality in depth and really open that up. I know you wrote a book about that, and I also want to hear what you have to say about spirituality in dreams. And I'm going to play a little piece of music here. This is from Space Odyssey. I always have my guests pick their songs. And I also want to let you folks know that in about 20 minutes, I will open up the phone so you can call in to 831-900-5773. And we are speaking to David Lowe, and this is the Dream Journal on K-Squid 90.7 FM, and I am your host, Catherine Bell. So this is the Dream Journal, and we are here live with David Lowe. Hello.
Hey, Catherine. Great to be here again. Yes.
Yes. So talk to me about spirituality. Like, what do you define as spirituality, and how can our dreams help us access that?
Well, there's beneath all religions, there is an underlying dimension of deeper reality that we all share. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, the very, very first things we all perceive before our brains process information, they first receive raw information from the earth. Before we categorize it, before we culturize it, before we have languages, we all perceive the same basic data from the world. Mm. That's the primordial material that dreams work with in formulating their symbolism. That's the universal language, right? And the profound reality that dreams can bring us back to is beyond culture, beyond language, beyond literacy. It's deeper, more profound, more foundational, more real, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's what dreams want us to get back to. I am convinced. We all have, there are people who have special gifts like clairvoyance or whatever, but we all have basic psychic faculties which allow us subconsciously to always be scanning the higher dimensions in the future across time and space for interference patterns, you might say, in our path through life. Are you with me, kind of?
Well, yeah. I'm just like, can you say more? Like, what would that be? What kind of abilities do we all have? That we all share that we're maybe not aware of all the time?
Well, we all have in the super subconscious, super conscious part of our minds simply higher dimensions of existence. Our thoughts and feelings are not confined to 3 dimensions. They go across time and space. They exist in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and higher dimensions. So part of us, way, way beneath the radar, does perceive these higher patterns of existence. We all have our karmas. We all have things terrible. We all have difficult things which are going to happen to us no matter how diligent we are about our spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
But for most events, there are choices we can make. We can go through life in an easier way than we otherwise would if we don't pay attention to our dreams. Our dreams are always offering us, in my experience, they always have on offer potential information we can be looking at to find an easier way to do things which we have yet to do in life.
Mm-hmm.
That's so the dreams, as it's part of our nature as human beings to have that faculty.
Right.
We can pay attention to it or not. If we choose to pay attention to it, then by transformative, direct emotional purification image work, we don't need to interpret, but we can automatically integrate conflicting areas of knowledge into a unity. Or we can go the intellectual route and understand their messages and do things differently as a result and go through life in a more harmonious way than we otherwise would have and achieve the same resolution, although maybe not as quickly.
I wonder if you could have some examples that you could share from either your own work or from other folks that you know about.
Yes, so I'll give you a very simple example from my own experience. Years ago, I had a roommate. We were both living in the same house, very busy, passing each other like ships in the night. And we were good friends and everything, but we hardly ever talked. And one day, I had a dream. One night I had a dream. He was looking at me with great anger. That was the whole dream.
Huh.
That was the entire dream. So what's going on? So I went out of my way to interrupt my routine and talk to him. Hey, what's happening? What's going on in your life? And all kinds of stuff came out. He was going through a lot of difficult things with his girlfriend, with his motorcycle, with his work, and everything was being reassessed. Didn't know what he wanted to do. And he was going through a lot of confusion and needed to talk to somebody about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I couldn't have known that if it wasn't for that dream. So that dream went into areas, that I couldn't possibly have access into his subconscious and communicated them to me in the right way to allow him to be talked to by somebody so we could process some material and feel better about himself.
Right. So somehow you picked up on something, either on a subconscious level or on a spiritual psychic level, that something was going on with him, and the dream really highlighted that and brought that to your attention.
Right. The dream source wanted him to feel better and wanted me to have more compassion and understanding towards him, both at once.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and another time, these guidance dreams I get, I was wondering, where do I want to go to graduate school? This is going back about 20 years now. And one day when this question was like weighing especially heavily on my mind, I couldn't decide Temple University or George Washington State University. So one night I just had a brief dream of the Temple University, Philadelphia, downtown campus. That was the entire dream, just a scene at that campus. And I knew that was the answer to my question.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. But if you have the longing, and if you need the guidance, if you need that kind of guidance, and if you have the longing for more spiritual connection, then that guidance will be forthcoming.
Right.
But we need to be interested. That's the thing. We need to be interested. Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting that my personal experience is that I I was, very intellectual, raised as a scientist, and I had a really hard time making decisions that I could like list all the pros and cons for days and think about this and that. But to come down to what do I want was like a much more difficult question. Like, what do I want? And the dreams, as I've been working with my dreams, I've started to reconnect with some of that deeper kind of feeling sense, because I'm, like I said, I'm definitely on the feeling side, and that it's become easier over time for me to feel like my gut says yes or my gut says no, or what does my heart want, and that there's a ways that it's much easier for me to make decisions and not be defensive about it, just like that's just what I want, and like that's enough. I don't have to tell you why, because I maybe don't even know why, like why you chose Temple over the other universities, like don't know why, but some part of you knew that was what you wanted. That's what was the best thing for you.
Right. And it's interesting how I guess some people, I would say dreams are important for about maybe 90% of us. They're important to pay more attention to than we do. Mm-hmm. There's a great deal that most people can get out of paying more attention to the dreams than they do. But some people just have a certain sense of flow. And they just go through life kind of intuitively sensing enough things not to have to get messages about them through dreams, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, but dreams are important for most of us for the reasons that you're mentioning. I had and still have similar experiences of making lists of pros and cons. And I wish I could tune more directly into the feelings in my dreams than I often do.
Right.
But yeah, yeah.
Well, interesting that those people who have this sense of flow, but they're not overtly working dreams as far as they don't write them down in the morning or anything. But maybe there's the way that the dreams still are providing guidance to them. There's a fair amount of research into this. People by Matthew Walker and other folks like that who have done research into how the dreaming that we do actually helps us make decisions, especially ethical decisions, and it helps us to sort out our emotions, whether we remember those dreams or not. So maybe those people who are in flow, they kind of are working with their dreams, but just subconsciously.
I think what's going on today in the world, there's so many difficult things happening, and dreams are assisting us in putting it all together.
So this is one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, David, is like now with so much, say when you said like now interest is being forced upon us by world events. Maybe say a little more. What do you mean? I certainly have noticed an uptick in interest in dreams. And what do you think is the catalyst for that? I have my own theories, but I'm curious to hear what your ideas are.
Yeah, that's such a big topic. I can talk first about, there are these futurists who, on the scientific or sociological level, predict future trends. And then there's the much more interesting mediums and astrologers and so forth, and the various channeled sources which tell us what's coming up. I've sort of studied both, and the consensus amongst New Age theorists about the future is that the world is going through a difficult transition right now. And, with the age of Aquarius and everything, for the next 5 or 10 years, things could get really dicey. Mm-hmm. But after that, they will get better, a lot better. But until then, things are going to be difficult. A lot of things have to break down even further, before they can be replaced and built back up by something better. Mm. But, a lot of things I think are going to become, things like food, money, medical care are going to start being scarcer.
Yeah.
And all of the things that we associate with our normal sense of security and life and doing well and everything are just going to kind of not be there.
Right.
And we're going to have to start making different sorts of ethical and moral decisions. I mean, especially in this country, some of the political ideas that our country was founded on are really selfish. Almost Darwinian in there. And so, but what really distinguishes us as human beings, amongst other animals, is that we are loving and compassionate toward each other. We do want to extend charity towards each other. We do wish to see everyone healthy, happy, and fulfilled, not just ourselves.
Absolutely.
And for that to come about, we need to think, especially in this country, we need to start thinking very differently. And so dreams are the primary avenue of spiritual development that we all share. You know, some of us may be psychic or clairvoyant or whatever, but we all have what I call dream sight, right?
Absolutely.
Dreams are the venue through which that transformative work takes place. And so, you know, right now people are having dreams about the future, and they are being advised whether they want to look at it or not. They're being advised about things they ought to do to prepare. And I think they're being advised about different ways that they need to start thinking in. All that is coming down through people's dreams, and we need to start paying attention. So I think dreams are crucial mechanisms for spiritual growth that most of us are going to have to start paying more attention to than we do now.
There's a quote, I'm afraid I can't remember who said this, but I know Marsha Hudson likes to quote this, that dreams are the workshop of evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that really...
I think
that's what you're saying.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, so, it's very interesting times we're living in, very difficult times, but transformative. And I think that dreams are going to play a critical part in people's individual evolutions and changes of perspective, because we're going to be forced to pay attention to them.
Absolutely.
And so.
Okay, well, David, let's take another short break, and then we're going to be back with a caller. I understand there's already a caller waiting on the line, and so I will get to you in just a second. Thank you for calling in, and so if other callers want to call, you'll have to wait until that caller gets off, since we only have 2 lines available. But I wanted to say this is the Dream Journal. You are listening to K-Squid 90.7 FM, Community Radio of Santa Cruz, and I am Catherine Bell.
I really want to know you. Really want to go with you. Really want to show you love, but it won't take long, my love. My sweet Lord, my Lord.
So we are here with David Lowe, and we also have a caller on the line. Hello, caller.
Hello. Hi, this is Mark from Philadelphia.
Great.
Dr. Lowe, thank you for your expertise and your insights. My question is, given what you've said, can the magic of dreams help in any way to unite our troubled, divided world? And I'll take the answer offline.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for calling.
Well, I think absolutely it can, pretty much in the way that I just described. In terms of the larger political order of the world, the danger of like nuclear exchange or this sort of thing, it's through, you know, I have a friend actually at the IASD that Catherine spoke a minute ago about the convention, the dream conventions that we have both attended. This lady's area of interest is how dreams can influence politicians. That we all have within us the source of joy, inner knowledge, and peace that we can all derive great spiritual principles from and grow into. And she wants to have politicians sort of tune into that dimension of themselves. And that is what we all would like to see happen, because we associate politics with primordial levels of ethical stupidity. At least I do.
Yeah, no, and I think there's also something that we do by doing our work and by talking to our people, our own relatives and friends and family, and who are not necessarily all on the same political spectrum that we are, and having love for those folks is super important, and something that dreams can definitely help us with. So the line is open if anyone would like to call in and ask a question, like maybe you'd like to talk about what inspired you to become interested in your own dreams, or maybe you'd like to just share a dream on the air. It can be powerful just to speak a dream on the air with other people listening. And don't worry, we're all dreamers. We're not going to be, there's no judging. So give yourself a call at 319005773. That's 900 KSQD, and this is KSQD 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. Sorry, Dave, what was that?
We can say also that just to make folks aware, there are different kinds of dreams. The most common is the REM dream, rapid eye movement dream, right? I am prepared to say that all REM dreams come in the service of health and wholeness. That's what Jeremy Taylor thought.
Yep.
Okay. There are other kinds of dreams that might not, non-REM dreams, and hypnagogic, hypnopompic dreams. The REM dreams are the majority of them, the ones that are most vivid, the ones that we usually remember. And in theory, I think they all come in the service of greater health and wholeness for the dreamer. They have psychological and biological functions, but the part of them which is of greatest interest to us is their spiritual dimension and the potential they have for giving to us greater levels of happiness and fulfillment. But the dilemma, of course, is finding the time to really take an interest in them.
I find that's extremely helpful to keep that image with me, like the one of the girl, or the blind girl running through the carpeted hallway. That does something. It just speaks to me. There's just something that feels really joyful there for me.
Yeah, I can say at the other end of the spectrum, I had a traumatic event in my family. One of my youngest sibling took his own life under difficult circumstances.
Sorry to hear that.
And we've all gotten over that on one level. But I had a dream recently in which I walked down this dim hallway to this dark room, and I knew that this room, before I got there in the dream, had something to do with the really dark space that my brother was in leading up to the time where he actually took his own life. And when I approached that room, I saw a brick wall. A brick wall separating me from that room. And I understood intuitively that wall is something I have to breach in some sense. So I found it very, very powerful to contemplate, to just picture this wall in my mind's eye as a kind of spiritual exercise. I've done this for some hours, and I'll do it some more. And whenever I contemplate this brick wall in my mind for, say, 15 minutes, half an hour, under the right circumstances before I go to sleep or something, I do feel this kind of heaviness come over me, the sadness. So locked up in the image of that wall is some deep, deep level of fear / grief / rage, primordial level of unhappiness or delusion that both he and I share. Yeah.
Right. Wow, that's powerful. So is that a recent dream that you've been working with?
That's one that came down about a month ago.
Oh, okay, that's pretty recent. Yeah.
I've been picturing it. There's more work to be done with that one, for sure.
I think it's beautiful, David, the way that you say that that there's important to breach that wall, but that you don't immediately rush in and do some kind of imagery where you're smashing it down, because I think those kind of walls can be really helpful to us. And like you say, the dreams come in service of our wholeness, and maybe there'll be a more gentle way of bringing down that wall that's not going to be traumatic, but it's you have this sense of just like there's something there that I had in common with my brother, and maybe maybe that wall will come down. I'm remembering some dreams I had of a dam, like when years ago, when I was a couple decades ago, actually, when I was really unhappy and working with a psychologist, and it was just this huge, incredibly high dam, like hundreds and hundreds of feet high, with this just brimming with water, and it was like the sense of danger that if this thing were to burst, it was probably what needed to happen, but it would have been really dangerous. And what I noticed in the dream is that at the very bottom of the dam, there was like a little opening, and the water was coming out a bit at a time from the bottom. So there was like a way that I kind of, my psyche perhaps was regulating the way that it was releasing the pressure. So rather than just catastrophically destroying the dam, that my dream imagery kind of found a way to relieve some of the pressure here without creating a traumatic event for myself. So
Yeah,
I'm glad that you respect the wall, and that it's important that it's there right now, and someday it's not going to be, but right now that's what's there.
Right, and the things have to ripen. You can only grow so quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, again and again, it's happened that I've been warned in dreams, not so fast.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Take your time. And, sometimes you get these pat on the back dreams, I call them. These encouraging, hey, you did well with this, Like one time, I can remember a time working, I had this job where I was exposed to this extraordinarily beautiful woman, right? I mean, it just blew me away. And here I am married, and I'm going to be distracted by this woman. I worked with that for a while. I just kept trying to be aware of my distraction about this person, and I didn't let it get to me. But it did get to me for a while, but after a while it faded. It took some years of internal work to get over that.
Right.
But when I did, I had this dream, which she came along and said, "Bye-bye, good job."
Good job.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, so I got that person out of my head.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer bothered by that.
Right. But it takes time, like you said. It takes time.
Yeah, right. And of course, she herself had no idea that any of this was going on.
Right.
They were very interested in that.
Right. And and those dreams are very inner. It's not always necessary to tell somebody that you've been dreaming about them.
Exactly.
Like even your roommate, you talked about that you went and talked with your roommate. I don't know if you said to him, I had a dream about you, but you just checked in, like, so how are you doing? Like you can maybe bring some attention to the people in your life who show up in your dreams, and may or may not say that I was been dreaming about you, or you may never talk to them and just work with the image internally.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But the whole thing of slowing down that you brought up, I think is really beautiful, that it's super important to go slowly, that I especially tend to be kind of anxious and like wanting to hurry things up and being in a rush everywhere I go. But it's like, there's lots of time, even whatever age we are, whatever's happening in our lives, it's so much better if we can slow down. It's just makes we can feel what's happening in the body. It becomes possible to be mindful, and then we can really give patience and compassion for what really is, rather than what we might want to be or what's coming in the future or what happened in the past. But to be in this elusive present moment, there's something really powerful about slowing down.
Yeah, I think it's also important to talk to folks briefly about there may be folks out there who are wondering why they don't dream. Or why they can't remember their dreams, even though they may have been trying to. They may be doing all the right things. Sometimes people censor themselves, I think, with their beliefs about dreams. But that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, there's certainly more than one way to the top of the mountain. I don't think that dreaming's the only way to become a happier, more balanced person, or to. I don't know. I'm hesitating. The word enlightened doesn't I hate that word but I think there's more than one way to become more spiritual, and dreaming is one of the ways, but it's not the only way. Well, we do I just want to give one more shout out because we have about 10 minutes. And so if anyone wants to have one more caller, we can have one more caller. Its number is 831-900-5773. So give us a call if you would like to ask a question, share a dream. So, David, what do you think about how to get people more interested in their dreams? Well, we've talked a little bit about why they're not. So this radio show is one of my passion projects to get people more interested in dreams, just by like you said, by talking about it and sharing with your friends to increase people's interest. What other ways do you think we can do as a culture or as a friend to increase people's interest in their own dreams?
I love just to say, let's just go out and get people educated, get people into psychology classes with like really liberal-minded professors who can talk about their experiences. For anybody who has a more artistic and intuitive way of relating to the world, be it through art, through music, through theater, through statue, through any kind of unusual personal expression. People shouldn't be afraid of not doing those things. Writing, journal keeping, images, photography, realizing that there are internal dimensions to our life. Well, right now with the pandemic, we're forced to be with ourselves, to be in our home, to be together with our families, and to find fulfilling ways of relating to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can tell stories. We can tell our stories to each other. We can relate on just the idea that we can feel into each other's experiences and not rely only on facts and figures. The great value of this pandemic, I suppose, it makes us become more contemplative. And there's so many ways that that's starting to happen. Yeah, I'm thinking about one thing that these various New Age sources tell us will be taking place in society is a gradual breaking down of sort of political institutions like schools.
Right. So David, do you have any way that folks can get in touch with you that you could like to share over there? And also we'll have links on the podcast page as well.
dcadvisor.us/DLOW6.
Thank you, David.
And also David at worldspirituality.com is the email.
Okay, David at worldspirituality.com. Okay, thank you, David Lowe from Philadelphia. I sure appreciate having you on the show.
Catherine, it's been great. It's been wonderful being. We'll do it again sometime.
That'd be great. Thank you, David.
Okay, take care, Catherine. Bye, everybody.
All right, bye. So next week, we will be talking to the Grande Dame of Dreamwork, Monterey Bay's own Kathleen Sullivan. Kathleen wrote books called Recurring Dreams and Recurring Dream Symbols. She also had a radio show of her own called Dreams, Another Way of Knowing, which aired on KAZU from 1990 to 2002. So I'm going to ask her for advice about hosting a radio show. Tune in next week and hear me get schooled. I guess the number one advice is make sure you have a good connection. I do apologize for the audio today. You can listen live next Saturday at 10 a.m. or catch the podcast replay.
Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries far behind you.
I am Catherine Bell, and this has been the Dream Journal. Thanks for listening. You can find out more about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. I offer private sessions, dream groups, and online classes. If you have a dream you're curious about, you're welcome to contact me for a free introductory dream consultation. You can also reach me at catherine@ksquid.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. Let me know if you have suggestions for interviews or questions about a dream. Or maybe you just want to say hi. If you like this show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or tell a friend how much you're enjoying the show. Our guest today was David Lowe, and we had a caller from Mark. I'd also like to thank my program assistant, Max Deaton, and our creative musician, Rick Kleffel, who created, again, an original composition for our ambient music. It's always a treasure to hear that music. And thank you to all the generous donors who support this station. K-Squid is 100% listener supported, and donations are always welcome at ksqd.org. That's all for the Dream Journal. Join us again next Saturday at 10 a.m. And when you wake up tomorrow morning, take a minute to look within. Do you remember a dream? Write it down and bring it to the next Dream Journal. Are you ready to wake up to the power of your dreams? I am Catherine Bell, and you are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz.